Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I am Carrie Hicks. I'm an outreach teacher for Canyons, Murray, and charter schools in Salt Lake County. I'm officially announcing that I will be retiring at the end of this school year. And because I didn't want Adam to make me speak, I volunteered a remarkable person to talk to you today. She's a former USDB student and well-respected, well-known member of the deaf community. So I have a lot to say to introduce her. I'm privileged and honored to do this. Once upon a time, a dimpled, blonde, blue-eyed baby girl was born into a family of brown-eyed brunettes. With a vivacious personality, inquisitive nature, and a spirit of independence, she was ready to live life to the fullest. When she was 18 months old, her parents realized that she was not localizing to loud sounds and that her speech development was delayed. Back then, they didn't have newborn hearing screenings. Diagnosed with profound bilateral hearing loss, Nannett never let this slow her down. Active in acrobatics, volleyball, basketball, she excelled in school and made numerous friends, both deaf and hearing. She became the technology expert and the genealogist of her family. A lifelong learner, Nannett is a natural teacher and has achieved many accomplishments during her 35-year teaching career. The following is a short version of her biography. Nannett Hicks is a dedicated leader, educator, and advocate in the deaf community. Born deaf due to maternal rubella syndrome, she graduated valedictorian from the Utah Schools for the Deaf, Ogden campus, and was crowned Miss Deaf Utah before earning her degree from Gallaudet University during the historic Deaf President Now movement. Since 1990, she has taught ESL courses ranging from beginning to advanced levels, deaf women's studies, and ESL literature. Along with many numerous other school and community programs, inspiring generations of students through her teaching, mentorship, and advocacy. She was instrumental in pioneering the Deaf Mentor experimental project in Utah, supporting deaf infants and children through Utah State University's Sky High Institute, and later through the USDB Parent Infant Program, PIP, for 8 years. As a national deaf mentor trainer, she has trained deaf mentors across the United States, empowering others to advocate for deaf children and their families. Her contributions extend far beyond the classroom. Nannett has served as director of Especially for Deaf Youth, Camp Leahona for Deaf Children, and Deaf Theater. She has held leadership roles on multiple boards, including the Utah Valley Association of the Deaf, the Deaf Heritage Library Center, and the Siegel Lilly Center for the Abused Deaf. She has been a mentor, poet, photographer, chaperone, and workshop presenter nationwide, while also volunteering at major events like the Deaf Olympics and the Miss Deaf America pageant. Recognized nationally for her service, faith, and artistry, Nannett continues to inspire and empower the deaf community with her lifelong dedication to language, culture, and education. Please welcome my sister, Nann Hicks. By the way, I'm the oldest of 5 and Nann is the middle child.
All right. Hello, everyone. Let me go here. So
I want to talk about three things before we get going. So EDS, obviously that's the campus that we're at. You know about EDS, Elizabeth Delong, right? Do you guys know her story, her life history? No idea? No idea? Great. I'll share it. And then USD. I've been to USD. I went to this deaf school. And then Deaf President Now, that movement, my personal experience and involvement in that protest. I have given many talks, probably about 100 hours. I had to limit my talk down to the best things I could tell you in this amount of time in my 45 minutes I have with you. So I've whittled that down. All right. I'm going to go ahead and let you just read this. Can you all see it? Is it too small? Shoot. I tried to do bold font to make it a little bigger. Can you read it? It says she's the first deaf female student from Utah School for the Deaf to go to Gallaudet in 1897. The first deaf woman to graduate from Gallaudet in 1902. After her studies, she returned to teach at her alma mater, Utah School for the Deaf. She taught for 15 years. She was the first in her family to earn a college degree, the first deaf female superintendent of the Sunday school for the Ogden branch for the deaf within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in 1917. She was the first female deaf president of the Utah Association of the Deaf in 1909. She served 2 terms from 1909 to 1913, and she was the first female deaf president of any state chapter of the National Association of the Deaf. Sorry, can you see this? Is that bigger? Can you see it? Where are we at? Shoot, I couldn't. I thought that by the time it got on this screen, it would be big enough. So I apologize. So this election represented. It was in the 19th Amendment in 1920. And NAD did not allow deaf women to vote in their elections until 1964. Her active participation in Utah's early suffrage movement, along with her educational, political, and spiritual aspirations, highlighted her determination. Her involvement in 1901 presidential election of Gallaudet's OWLS. It was a secret society for women. Now it's known as Phi Kappa Zeta. That fueled her commitment. And Libby was her nickname. Served as president of the Utah Association of the Deaf from 1909 to 1915. And that marked a significant milestone in their history. At the end of her second term as president in 1915, she delivered a powerful speech that marked a turning point in the women's suffrage movement. She grew up in Utah. Women gained the right to vote on February 14th, 1870. Libby passionately advocated for women's suffrage in her 1915 speech. Her commitment towards promoting women's rights and demonstrated her dedication and had a profound and lasting impact on the movement, inspiring many and empowering us today. Okay, so this is Elizabeth Delong. We'll call her Libby. She's right here on the far left, pointing her finger at the USDB school in Ogden, and that's somewhere between 1896 to 1897 that this picture was taken. This is her. When she was a student at Gallaudet in about 1902. And this is her at Gallaudet again. And this is her cousin, right? That's Libby, and this is her cousin John, right here. John H. Clark. And this was the class of 1902. And this is at their graduation. So this is Libby here with the blue arrow pointing to her. And that was the teachers, the instructors, and the supervisors of the Utah School for the Deaf and Blind in Ogden, Utah in 1903 to 1904. Yeah. This is in 1909, the Utah Association of the Deaf Officers, and with her in the middle as president. She is the first female president, like we mentioned. The first female president. Again, this says she was the first female president of UAD. And this was from the UAT Bulletin. It's their little newsletter that they had in the summer of 1963. And she gave a speech advocating women's suffrage at the UAD convention in 1915 after her second term as president. It's believed that she was inspired by the early Utah suffrage movement to achieve her academic, political, and spiritual goals. Her courage to pursue her dreams must have inspired her own students. And I give my gratitude to Jody Becker-Kenner for sharing Libby's story with us. She did all the research to put this together, and you can find all of this at www.utahwomenshistory.org/bios/Elizabeth-Delong. And there's more information there. I just pulled out a little bit of it. So you go to that website, and I'm grateful to Jody for all of her hard work. Great, okay? Now you know something new. Amazing woman. You guys are teaching and working here. So she's very inspiring, right? Do you feel inspired? And I mean, it's an honor that her name is here. I'm sure she's jumping for joy in heaven. Wow, huh? So 5 years ago to now, this school's been here. It's 5 years old. Wow. Okay. So Utah Schools for the Deaf. I started at preschool, and this is me. Yeah, so cute, huh? So this was oral. Some of these kids are oral as well. And this is me. I was oral. I remember the teacher had that little microphone thing, very old, like stiff, big microphone. And I was using this headphone system to try to hear her, because I had to sit and have this big box that we were then plugged into. You could see that big box there, right? And that went into there, put my headphones on, and had to, if I stood up, then it would start to pull my, my head back, and because I was attached to the wall. So I'd have to pull off those, and if I wanted to go to the bathroom or do something else, whatever. So got stuck by those headphones. Yeah. So I grew up oral at first in preschool. This is, like I mentioned, preschool. The teachers would focus on us trying to read their lips. I could not understand that. And then I saw one boy, this boy right here, he was from a deaf family, and he signed. And I was like, I want to learn that. And at that time, it was Total Communication. There was a Total Communication school right next door where they signed at lunch. And I was like, oh, I want to sign. So I said I wanted to sign, and the teacher got very mad at me and said that was forbidden. We could not sign. I had to lip read. And the teacher used a ruler, actually, and smacked our hands. Can you imagine those little hands smacking with a ruler? And it hurt. It was forbidden for us to sign. So this was preschool, and I was there for a year. Then I moved to Idaho, and I went to the Idaho School for the Deaf for kindergarten through 7th grade. Then moved back to Utah from 8th grade to 12th grade and graduated at that point. Now, I saw some of these oral kids grew up and later became signers. So, yeah. Okay, now in 8th grade, this is me right here. I went in, and there was basketball. I was like, ooh, I want to learn to play basketball. And the team, this was a high school team, mind you, and I was in junior high, but I wanted to do it. And the coach was like, oh, you got to prove that you can do it. So I learned and worked super hard to get there, played a lot to prove that I could do it. And they let me join the team. And we went to California for a basketball tournament. And I went to Berkeley, California. And the deaf school there was ginormous, just huge. I mean, so many more students than Idaho or Utah had. I was just amazed by how many deaf people there were. Plus, 8 schools were at that tournament. And we had the Washington State School for the Deaf, Oregon State School for the Deaf, California, Berkeley, and then California, Riverside, and then the Utah Schools for the Deaf. And then we also had New Mexico there, Arizona as well, and then Colorado. So there were 8 schools all together that came together for this huge tournament. And I met so many new friends, and that experience was great. A lot of them my age got it because all of them were born deaf, right? And because that there was a rubella epidemic at that time, and that was all over the United States. Many people my age were born deaf because of rubella. So this was a great experience for me in 8th grade to be able to be on the high school team. I was so proud that I proved I could do it. So this is a picture of 2 deaf teachers. And those 2 teachers were really important deaf women role models for me. I was able to look up to them. They inspired me. They believed in me. They said I could have leadership skills. They said I could do it. And I participated in junior NAD at that time. I was an officer for them. I was on student council at my school. I was involved in both of those things. And I became president, vice president of the deaf school, and secretary as well. And this teacher was at Utah School for the Deaf. She was an alumni. She went to Gallaudet and graduated. And her family was also deaf. And she was on the board. She was the first woman on the board at Gallaudet as well. She taught. And then when she was off during the week, she would fly to meetings in Washington, D.C. for Gallaudet and then fly back here. So they were so focused on the importance of math and English. I had to pass those to get into Gallaudet. And they encouraged me and were willing to take their time. Summer school, they were in contact with me to make sure I was able to move up where I needed to be in math and accomplish those things. In this picture, this teacher was Utah Deaf School for so many years. They were from Idaho Deaf School, and they, grew up and graduated there, went to Gallaudet they were the first deaf woman as student body government to be the president. And I was like, oh, a woman can do it. She's a woman. And she encouraged me, and I learned was inspired from her. She was so accomplished and so smart. She supported me all the way. And I'm so grateful for these 2 women. Okay. So do you know the spring, there's the prom, right? The dance, the prom. So back in the day, in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, that was the thing. But then it went away for a while and we didn't have prom. And the teachers felt like, come on, these kids need to go back and have a prom. They need to have that dance in the spring. So we set it up and we're so excited. And we didn't expect that they would vote for me. So here I am as prom queen. I was shocked that I was voted prom queen. And this was a teacher who said, oh, we're going to go ahead and set up Miss USD, because the deaf school was here. And then the old campus, mind you, was over there in Ogden. And then we had the blind school was farther away. It was on Harrison Boulevard over there. They were separate campuses at that time. And so when the deaf school closed and was given to Ogden City, right now you are using the Harrison Boulevard campus. That's where the blind school was historically. So this was Miss USD. And this is Little Miss USD. So she was Miss Little USD. So they set that up, and I competed against, I think it was 21 girls, and I won. So here I am. I was the first one. I was very proud, and she was the little queen. So I was the queen and she was the little queen. And this was the same year that I was voted prom queen. So I was involved in track, and at that time I won sixth for the discus, the black disc heavy thing, and you throw it across the field and whatever. I was like 18. There was 18 hearing girls, and I went in there into the state competition, and I found out that I was the only one who went into the state level competition. And at the last time was 22 years ago that a girl went into that state competition. And it had been 22 years up to the time that I went. So I went, and I was all alone in this state competition. So St. Joseph's Catholic School, that Catholic school was so fancy. The students were so nice, so friendly, and they were so congratulatory to me. And I joined with them. And those students not teach. I mean, I taught them some sign language, and they were happy to learn it, to communicate with me. So I was able to chat with them, went to the Catholic school, and slept overnight there and was ready for the competition the next day. And the coach was super friendly to make sure I had everything that I needed. And they heard the announcement, and they'd say, "Hey, you're next, come with me." So I went up there with them they wanted to make sure, because I couldn't hear, that I heard the announcement that it was my turn, that I was ready to go. And the other team at the Catholic school was all right there watching and cheering me on, saying you could do it. It was so inspiring for me. And I cheered them on too, and they won, and it was great. So I really appreciated that experience. And again, the second time I won at track. And I went to the Catholic school again, and they were like, "Hey, you won again, and we're so excited, come on." So joined with them again and went on that trip and slept over there. It was really a great experience, these two meets. Yeah. Okay, so that's done. Now I'm going to talk about Deaf President Now, the protest. Are you guys familiar with the history of that? Does everyone know that? I see some yeses, some no's. Okay. So first, why would they protest Deaf President Now? The reason for that was that the Board of Regents at that time were doing some screening as to who would become the next president of Gallaudet University. There was a deaf man, another deaf man, and the third person was a hearing woman. And her name was Dr. Elizabeth Zinzer, and she didn't know any sign. She would do this and then move her mouth, and we had no idea. Brought in an interpreter. I mean, the other two signed fluently. They were deaf. And they'd had a hearing president for 124 years, and it was time. It was time. They had two other qualified candidates who were deaf, and the board just decided and announced that they had picked the hearing person, and deaf people were angry and protested. And that week was midterms. We all had our midterms. Yeah. Yeah. And I was a senior at that time. So I worked as an SRA, student residence assistant, at the dorm for Benson Hall. And that was the building that we're standing in front of there. It's a huge building. There's 8 floors, and including a basement. So in total, there were 9 floors to the building. So, I mean, it was a challenge for me. These are the guys, each dorm kind of had SRAs at it. And the reason for that was, we didn't have cell phones at that time, right? There weren't like emails at that time. We couldn't email. There was nothing. The technology just was not there. This was 1988, mind you, right? So to communicate, to contact people, we had this hall, and then we had the field house. That's the gym, the basketball, swimming, and all of that were in that field house. So if we wanted to get the attention and call the attention for the protest, we would have to do the fire alarm. pull the fire alarm, and it would go off. The lights would flash, just like this one you have here, right? The lights would flash, and we'd be like, okay, we'd get up and walk up all of the floors of the building to tell everybody the protest was happening and the basement, and pull the fire alarms in every single hallway, every single floor. This was my boss. This is me. And my boss was like, really, it was a 2-hour rotation. So we all took turns going to the protest and then coming back. It was my turn, pull the fire alarm on each floor and then go back. And we went back and forth and back, and there was no fire. We wanted to make sure there was no fire because the fire alarm was just going off, so you wouldn't know if there was a fire. So man, was that good exercise going up all those stairs. So this is me right here. Yeah, you can see that little blue circle. That's me. So I sat and watched the speakers who were saying, what do we do? And what we're planning this week. And we're like, yeah, we want a deaf president, don't we? It was so inspiring. And they were saying we should fight for it. And again, here's me. It's dark. It was nighttime and we had barely enough light. We were shining it on the speaker because we didn't have technology of big spotlights or anything like that. So we had just our little flashlights trying to shine them on the person who was presenting to us, talking about the protest. This is more of the protest. This is the front of the university. Here's a Gallaudet. This is Alice Gallaudet's statue. And then the dorm was this way. And so, yeah, I'd go over to the dorm, up the 8 floors, and then back over here and back and forth we went during that week. Then we had a march to the White House as part of the protest. So here's the White House. It's really close to Gallaudet. The White House is just down the road. It's not far at all. We just marched right over there. And this is on the street here. This is Florida Avenue, and it's a super crowded street, but the police blocked it off to let us have our protest and march down there to the White House. This is me right here. You know, I had my glasses. I was cool. Yeah. So, okay, so we were all standing in rows for the protest and yelling, you know, we want deaf president now. I mean, our voices were killing us, but we were yelling deaf president now, and standing in a line like this was the sidewalk. So here, this is the sidewalk, and we're walking here. You couldn't stand and block the sidewalk. If you walked off the sidewalk, they would arrest you. We had to stay on the sidewalk. And this police were watching us like hawks and listening to us yell and yell and yell, saying we wanted a deaf president. And I was standing right in front of this officer right here. And my friend is right here. And we're teaching the officer the signs to say, we want deaf president now. And she was so excited. Here she is signing it. She signed Gallaudet. And there she is signing now because she was signing along with us. And she was so excited, wanting to learn more sign to keep her busy. It was so boring just to guard us to make sure we didn't step off the sidewalk. So, okay, I will never forget this. So you guys know I was talking about Dr. Zinzer, and she announced, I have to go to Gallaudet campus. I have to take care of things because they're going to mess things up. And she tried to get into Gallaudet, and the students would not let her. She pulled up with her car, could not go through. So she went, the Gallaudet campus is here, and there's a fence all the way around it, okay? So only the front is open. So she tried to get in over here. There's like that's where we have the Kindle school. The elementary school was over here. She tried to get in there, and that gate was closed, and students' cars were blocking that gate. She couldn't get in. She came around and tried to go out through another gate. She couldn't get in there. The students know how to hot wire the gate. And so they had parked the school bus, hot wire a bus. That was interpreter error there. So they hot wired a bus to block the gate. And then there was a helicopter that actually came in and went right here. This is the baseball field that you're looking at. right? So we called everybody, said that there was an emergency. We all ran over to the baseball field. I don't know where I am exactly. I would have to get binoculars and try to figure it out. But we were all standing here looking at this helicopter come in, and it's circling above. And we all went to the middle to make sure that they could not land. We were ready, and we were saying, go. That's us signing go. Do you see that? You see everyone signing go? We're saying go, go to that helicopter as it's hovering around. And they finally left, and we were like, woohoo, yeah. So I will never forget. That was the best moment. We felt so victorious at that moment and so powerful. So we said, we still have a dream, because we borrowed that from Martin Luther King's Have a Dream speech. Everyone knows that speech, right? That he gave. Yeah. And people were like, so willing to give us this sign. It is the actual sign that was used 20 years before in 1980 or 1968 that we used in 1988. So yeah, here it was, old, worn, and amazing. There we are standing. It was so inspiring. And so during the march, we marched through, where the Black people live along the street. They saw that and were inspired and started to cry and was like cheering for us, saying, here you go. And they started honking their horns and going, you guys go. And people were supporting us because Black people supported deaf people. They knew, and they were so respectful and honoring of us and giving us their power. Okay, so here's me. Yep. And everyone joined from other deaf schools across like Maryland was there, North Carolina, Virginia, New York Deaf School was there. Lots of deaf schools got on a bus and came, huge bus, and joined us. And here they are, all joining to be part of that. And NTID was there. You guys know New York, the Rochester Institute of Technology? Yeah, they were there, and they came and had a bus to join with us too. So we felt so inspired. There were so many alumni who came, parents of deaf children came, elementary school from Kendall School came and got on a bus, and it just was amazing to be part of. The buses were huge. The state the campus wasn't far. We were walking right over to the Capitol. The Capitol just wasn't very far. We could see the Capitol and the White House. We could see it there in front of us from the school. So these were my buttons. I've kept them. Now it's been 37 years. Do you know who this is right here? This is Dr. I. King Jordan. Yeah, he was the first deaf president at Gallaudet. And this is the student body government president said this. And then we have our PA, which means finally a success. Here's me. I graduated from Gallaudet with the first deaf president. Do you see that? So there was a lot of media out in the audience taking pictures of that first deaf president giving those diplomas. So degrees, excuse me. So yeah, this is not only historical, but at that time, there was midterms, remember I told you, and right after that was spring break. So that meant the protest happened and we missed our testing. And the second week was spring break and we were like, ah! So 2 weeks of no classes. And at that time, the midterm week, I went to the building where the classes are. And there were some students who came and, tried to go in the door. And I was like, no, you get out of here, go to the protest. They're like, I don't want to fail my tests. I'm like, hey, I'm a senior. I would be willing to postpone graduating because we need to fight for a deaf president. And they were like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, go to the protest. So they went with their friends and they wrote on the blackboard. Oh, it wasn't like, you guys have whiteboards, but this was a chalkboard at that time, with the white chalk that would get everywhere, right? So they wrote protest no class across it. Every classroom they wrote that protest no class. So when students would go in there, they would see, and teachers, we wouldn't let teachers get in the building either. We would guard it against that. The teachers wanted to join the protest too, but they didn't want to, have the president like penalize them in some way and kick them out. So they said you cannot fire the teachers for being involved. So the teachers were like, yes. And then they came and joined the protest with us. So the 7 days long was the protest, and that was it. It went by fast, but when I was a senior, we tend to have traditions, right? And seniors always kind of have, slough week, and they go somewhere for spring break. And we were like, we're going to go to the cafeteria, and then we're going to put a banner down there. But for us, my seniors, we went to, one second. So I'm looking for the protest stuff. Here it is in the yearbook. I like this because it's cool. Look. Yeah. And on the back. It's so heavy. So where do I put this? Okay. This is Acapulco, and we went to Acapulco, and a lot of people there had heard, oh, you guys are from the Gallaudet protest? And they would have shirts on that said Gallaudet, and the newspaper took pictures of everyone. So here we all are in the newspaper in Acapulco. Here's me way over here on the corner. Hard to see, but I'm there. And it's all in Spanish because it was a Mexico newspaper. So it's in Spanish. And I was able to send this to my mom and my grandparents because they speak Spanish their whole lives. So I sent a letter to them with that in, and they were able to read the Spanish. So yeah, they had heard about the protest. And so that was Saturday. On Sunday was the protest, and they didn't know anything about that. When Sunday was done, there wasn't text or anything. We didn't know. And then Monday, when I went to Mexico to the city, and then I saw that newspaper, USA Today, and it said, yay, and we hugged each other, and we were like, wait, what? And we screamed, and we were so glad we were successful. We were jumping all over the place, and the people in Mexico were like, what is up with them? So, well, whatever, we didn't care. So we had our little pesos, and we opened it and got the newspaper out and ran and got on the bus, and we all hauled back. We didn't have the little thing to pull to stop the bus, so we all walked and patted the bus driver and said, I'm going here. So they'd be like, okay. And we'd get out, and then we ran in and told everybody that the protest was over, and they didn't believe me. So I pulled out the newspaper and I said, see? So they took my newspaper, those guys, but they took it and celebrated, and everybody was so excited. And then on Monday, we were on our vacation week. When we came back to Gallaudet, then I found out I had the test. 2 weeks I didn't study. So here we are, but I made it. So there we go. And then I don't know if you know, but Apple TV, if you have that, anybody have Apple TV? Yeah. Have you watched it? Yeah. So I'm in this crowd here that's telling the helicopter to go away. I'm in the front of that crowd. You could look and you could find me if you looked hard enough. Just pause the movie, go really slow, something, go like this with the movie, slow motion, and I found myself. But Anyway, it's an hour long. It's a very good movie. I do recommend that you watch it. It's very inspiring. They interview people who were there, and then we talk about it today. So really awesome. Yeah. Sorry, say again.
Like this is accurate.
Oh, do you feel like the movie is accurate? And she said, yes, yes, I watched the whole thing, making sure, and yes, it was. And then, yeah, it's a documentary. You know, normally they don't document life and make a movie, but this was interviews and responses to the interviews. It was really good. Yeah. All right, I think my time is up. So I'm gonna stop. If anybody has any questions, though, any questions from anybody? All right, well, that's it. Thank you so much for having me. And here's the, I'm in here too. I didn't put that up here, but I'm in here too, so. We have something for you. This is a thank you for you for your presenting today. Thank you for coming and presenting for us. And here's a hat for you too. Yay! Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thanks. Hey, love y'all. I missed your presentation. Sorry, I had an IEP meeting with a student. So just so busy. Thank you so much for coming. I have heard so many amazing things you need. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for sharing a history of the deaf community. So really appreciate it. All right, yep, I'll be out here. It's good to learn about Elizabeth Delong too. Good for them to learn that. But they couldn't see the writing, it was so small. So I could make a copy and send it to you if you'd like, and you can attach that so everyone can read it and actually see the text. Yes, please send it to me. Yeah, that would be great. Okay. All right, thanks. Thank you so much.